sorry about that. Wait, Ryan was finding a pen. It wasn't the whole wait. It's not that. It's a big deal.
I'm
We had
verified now, David. I'm also verified. Thank
you're
you.
verified.
Thank you. Rumble verified. You people are welcome. I appreciate all the support as always. You guys are day one fans, late one fans, or my only fans. I'm a very proud man. So thank you.
Well, listen, Ryan, as our Russian money is coming in, we're starting to grow. So I appreciate Russia for giving us all that money. We're going to talk about Lauren Chen and Tenet Media. Ryan, have you been following the Russiagate 2.0?
Of course, David. That's why I'm here.
We're going to be talking about Russiagate 2.0. That's what it's getting dubbed there. Steven Crowder, Mugclub Undercover, they have some... We're going to have to watch the whole thing, Ryan. I told you, it was too much to clip, and I got to just dive into it. So we're gonna react to what Steven Crowder's Mugclub Undercovered, which was a chief... It was like a public affairs officer or something, but he was talking about the Trump conviction, and clearly it was politically motivated. His words, not ours, but also ours. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into Neil deGrasse Tyson, his thoughts on Elon and SpaceX, because apparently he thinks Elon and SpaceX have done nothing groundbreaking. I swear to God. We're going to talk about, there's a clip, Ryan. There's a clip of an officer entering somebody's home and then saying, I don't care about your rights. Basically, that's basically what he's saying. And then we're going to get into Tyreek Hill. Football season. Football season's back, Ryan. I'm so excited. Tyreek Hill was apparently arrested before the game I don't know. What do you even call it? They're saying he was arrested, wasn't arrested, detained. It wasn't a detaining. It was a minor traffic violation. I don't know, but there's a clip. It certainly looks like if that's not being detained, I don't know what it is, Ryan. So we're going to get into that.
Did he Ray Rice somebody?
Well, the funny thing, he has Ray Riced in the past with his pregnant girlfriend, but it wasn't related to that. It was something it was a traffic violation, is what they're saying.
His related to his pregnant boyfriend.
He did have a man in the car with him. Also, Ryan, I sent you this. It's worth mentioning. Doritos apparently make you invisible. So we're going to talk about Doritos making people invisible, as well as we'll get into Ryan's record like we always do, and maybe we'll bust out a few inappropriate ad reads, Ryan, like the Bearskin Fleshlight, one of our favorites.
Yeah, I get text messages from them. They must really like the program.
The CEO of Bearskin Fleshlight?
No, they say save 40% with code whatever. They must be.
It's probably code Rumble.
Code Rumble.
Ryan, let's get into Russiagate 2.0. Actually, before we get into Russiagate 2.0, do you have anything you want to say to our viewers on Rumble, YouTube, or X?
Hi.
Really? That's all you came up. That's all you got. But everyone by the way, for everyone watching, Rumble live chat. We'll talk with you. You don't have to sit here and watch us talk. You add to the show. Put in whatever you want. Hopefully, words and not. I don't know if you can add pictures, but I don't want to see any. We don't want to see any dicks. No dicks. Just words. I feel like Ryan. I have to write things down because my brain sucks and I forget things, and there's just too much to cover.
It's called ADHD, David.
Sure. Ryan, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, has done an investigation, and they're stating, Ryan, that Russia has paid right-wing media influencers or content creators, certain ones, to push Russian propaganda. One of the big ones was Lauren Chen, and I think she has something to do, or she owns or co-owns or whatever, with Tenet Media. They all together were in on this, according to the DOJ. A couple of things worth noting. The Blaze has fired Lauren Chen over the allegations, which, by the way, that's all they are. And because I haven't seen anything solid. YouTube has banned the channels, multiple channels, and the biggest one being Lauren Chen's channel. So YouTube has taken a report from the DOJ and acted on it. Or as at least one of our followers likes to call, free speech, Ryan. So do you have anything you want to add to the Lauren Chen Russiagate 2.0? Anything in defense of our Russian allies that we are paid by?
I'll just probably have a serious question, Dave. This is more about ideology. Do we think that Russia should be able to pay people on the internet to say things?
Do I think they should be able to?
Yeah.
Well, this is this is going to sound bad in the context of my joke of taking money from Russia. I don't see why not.
All right, great. Here's the problem. Like Tucker said, they'll just put child porn on your laptop. They can make up anything they want, even if it is straight money. You don't even know. I'm not obviously a finance bro or in the government, but I'm going to tell you this right now. The very idea that we're unilaterally seeing all these systems of government do the same exact playbook that they did last time, what does that have to tell you? Of course, Russia is paying people to say things on the internet. Everybody on the internet is basically paid to say things on the internet by somebody. And believe it or not every person in Russia is evil. Second of all, and also, what is wrong with? I don't know. I guess this is such a multifaceted conversation because I understand why the DOJ is doing what they're doing. I don't want the Russian government, in particular, targeting people to spread information. I don't want foreign election meddling. It does happen. It does happen. But at some point, it is free speech, right? At some point, it is this. It is that. Now, if we can prove that they're getting this and they're basically, let's say a mouthpiece for a lack of a better term, if people are really mouthpieces for the government of foreign entities, that would basically be the same as lobbying, and it also would be the same as treason, quite frankly. Especially because we're talking, let's be honest, any foreign entity that uses an American citizen, what they're basically doing is exploiting the amazing thing that we have here, which is the rights of this country. Those third world countries or these other countries are exploiting our freedoms to pass their agenda. That's like worse than treason, right? As far as the person who is doing the things, if they knowingly do this. But like you said, David, these are just allegations. It should be taken, in my opinion. I know this is all, I don't really care about the Lauren Chant thing. Do an investigation. If the shit's really there and she was really told to do this and she did, this should be easily provable. If AI is really what it is, you can scan every video all at once and find all your information. So I don't really understand why there's actually not more information in the day and age when everything fucking leaks. We have leaks about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift faking a breakup before the NFL season starts, but we don't have leaks. This stuff has never made sense to me. And David, we'll talk about our little Twitter conversation we had earlier this week about how it used to be a standard for something. But because I think that's really what we're battling right now. We're actually battling for people's new little calf of truth. But just to round out this whole little thing, dude, it's the fucking internet. I don't understand. Look, I don't want anybody to get hurt or drugs to be trafficked and children to die. So what I mean, it's crazy we even got to talk about that. As long as it's legal, moral, ethical, I don't know. We have parameters in our society already in place that the internet is not going to be this wild, wild west thing. But everybody is trying to clamp down on the internet. We seen last week that Kamala Harris talked about how people need to be basically silenced on social media by the government. And they're going to pick winners and losers, best be assured. And it's not going to be you or me or Dave or the people they don't necessarily fully agree with. And the point in saying all that is they do it at these people. This is the same shit they did to Alex Jones. This is the most important thing. They always do it at these other people so that you're okay with it. So that when they go at somebody that's, let's just say David or I will get an accusation about being a Russian paid asset. And now we are fucking SWAT teamed. And instead of working at the Blaze that has lawyers and all this other shit and can afford maybe necessarily a little bit more, I'm homeless, because I can't go to work and I'm arrested and I'm fucking taken to Washington, D.C. And this is, the apparatus is built for this very thing to be exploited, the rights of our country to be exploited by bastards if we so choose it, which is why it's so important to have transparency in government. This is literally a big thing we're battling is that we have lack of transparency about exactly what the government's after and how they utilize it and how they resource it and how they get the information. So That's why when we see shit like this, we even say, well, this is just accusations, even though it seems on the surface that's very cut and dry that it is a Russian interference in the election, which should be stopped. Let's be honest here. It should be stopped. And if it is that, then it should be very easy for us to be like, okay, this is acceptable. She should get fired, right? You know what I mean, Dave? But instead, since there is no transparency in government, there's a huge lack of trust in government. There's a huge disservice in some government that we have to like sit here and bounce back and forth about stuff. And let's not be honest. Let's go pull the old Uno card, David. The good old this is a distraction from something else happening. You know, but football's here. So the Coliseum's on.
Football's the ultimate distraction. And like I said, we'll be distracted by football later.
Well, honestly, it's only becoming a global phenomenon now.
Well, it's in Brazil. You said you wanted to. We could mention later in the program the talk we had about earlier this week about Twitter, but honestly, now might be a good time because it's kind of relative to what we were talking about currently.
Do you want to summarize it, Dave? Because I don't remember exactly how we got on it, but I think you sent me a tweet of something and I replied to it.
Well, I don't remember how it actually got started either, but what you sent me, and it might have been in response to something, but it was basically along these lines, which is it's interesting that before Elon took over X, which was Twitter at the time, before Elon took it over, it was like the bastion of information for everybody. Everybody went there, journalists, reporters. It was like not only was where all news from all sides, and it's not only where news was found, but some news was created, right? And it all happened there on Twitter. And since Elon has purchased it and Elon has been vilified, now it's everyone's saying it's where all the misinformation, malinformation, disinformation, all these fucking made up terms. That's where all that lies, but no longer good information is on X. And it's just interesting that it's all stemmed from the fact that they're vilifying one specific person who, remember, bought Twitter specifically to restore free speech. And since he has done that, now there's no good information on Twitter. It's only bad information, misinformation. It's Russian disinformation, as they continue to add adjectives to these words.
And let's not forget that Elon also dropped all of the Twitter files and showed you how the government, for example, the Hunter Biden laptop story, how they've used things. He helped disprove about the Russian bot thing. You know what I mean? As far as the number of outreach the bots had. I'm loosely remembering this. Don't slaughter me on this is not my sword to die on. The point is like there was a time not too long ago, Dave, we had a very many set of programs that you phenomenally broke down as you always do and produce, but they were called the Twitter files, and they showed you how the government worked in social media. So like at the same time that Twitter was the bastion of information and the government was consorting with the owners and the board of Twitter to censor information on the internet during an election cycle. All those things happened. Elon bought it, exposed it, and now that same app, nothing changed, right, Dave? Like it's not like it became a new app. They basically just took Kmart and put Walmart branding on it. That would be
it's the same. Yeah, it's the same bones.
It's like going to Tops or Wegmans, dude. Like
but he cut out a lot of the bad actors, though. That's what he did. He came in and he slashed and he said, "Listen, these are the things we're not doing." And then he installed.
Right, but it's not like right, but it's not like this. Like he didn't overhaul the system. He did. I know they've written code. I'm not a dork, but my main thing is not like he tore down 80% of Twitter and rebuilt it. Like he probably only had to do a couple. Realistically, he probably only did a couple things. And the reason I say that is because any guy that knows what to do with the fuck with money, they're more likely to buy something already built and fix it than to build something new because it costs less money that way. So Elon knew what he was doing. He probably wanted to make social media on his own. But the whole point is it used to be the bastion of information. Elon showed you how they take that bastion of information and manipulate it for government means while at the same time owning it to say that I'm doing this for free speech. And now that we're on the other side of all that, which is only basically like a year ago, okay, we're on the other side of all that. 2 years maybe. We're on the other side of all that. The shit that is on Twitter is mailed information, disinformation. Don't trust people. It's only porn. It's only OnlyFans. The reason Elon's opening all that stuff up to it is for the very same reason why the government wants them to have it open to it. It's the same. They didn't care before about porn. Now they only care because Elon allows it. The point is he's allowing more information. Like Elon's broadening making his search algorithm bigger. Like that's so like Elon's main thing is to draw data. I'm not saying that Elon bought it for free speech, but let's be honest, he bought it to have a data mining facility for Neuralink. Like let's be honest. Like, why do you think Gronk exists? You don't think Grok is going to be what Neuralink's AI is called? Why wouldn't you do that if he owns both companies? It's brand record, it's integration horizontally and vertically as a company, as products integrated with the Tesla. Gronk will be in a Tesla. Because remember, to go further, the phones are going to be basically whatever phone you have is basically how you're going to buy your next car, because the systems in the phone are going to be specifically engineered for certain models. This has been discussed already. This is in news articles. So why would I think Elon be any different? And I know we're in a different tangent now, but the whole point of it really is I'm not sitting here sucking Elon's dick because I don't trust him either all the way because of the whole computer chip. But it used to be the bastion of information for everybody on all sides of the aisle. After it was bought, we heard nothing about how he's going to ruin it and everything else, and that Twitter's never going to be the same, and it's going to go bankrupt. It's going to close down. Meta's going to take its place. We all heard. Remember? I'm not remember this wrong. Then he showed you the Twitter files. It's like 13 or 14 different episodes we did personally on this program, and anybody else that cares about fucking freedom did. Okay.
And that was what, a couple of years ago, right? Just to date it.
I mean, I'd assume within 2 years.
Yeah.
Within 2 years. Because we heard about the Hunter Biden laptop story basically through the Twitter files as far as the verification process, showing that social media did collude with the government to hide that story from voters so that it would potentially alter their opinions of who they're voting for, which is basically a soft version of election interference, YouTube. I'm not a fucking lawyer either, assholes. But like the whole point is it's like, it used to be the bastion. He showed you that it's bad. They didn't like it. And now that he's on the other side of that, once again, has the same apparatus. He just painted the car. He didn't take the whole car apart, rebuilt the car, and put the car back together. He just painted the way it looked. It was red, now it's blue. So it's the same system, the same thing. It was the same thing it was supposed to be before, and now it's not a place of information. Now it's not a place of this. It's now not a place of this, and it's the only place that you're hearing about very particular issues that are on our ballot in this election cycle, David.
I just wanted to date the Twitter files for one reason specifically, because last week we were talking about in general, talking about free speech, and everyone still seems to forget, right? We had that debate about it's a private company, right? It's a private company. YouTube can do what they want. It's a private company. Twitter can do what they want. It's a private company.
I still seen somebody post that on the internet, and I commented that they get money from the federal government. That is not a private company.
Exactly. Well, and we got into the fact with the portals and the fact that multiple government agencies were in bed with these big tech media companies, telling people who to censor, including as high up as the Biden-Harris-Obama administration was telling Twitter and Meta and all these YouTube and all these places, they were telling them who to ban, what to silence, what to censor. That's not a private company making decisions for themselves. That's a blatant free speech First Amendment violation. And the reason I bring that up now is because with the new Russiagate thing, the thing that's interesting is we're gonna keep hearing this because YouTube went out and banned multiple channels based on a DOJ report. So YouTube went out without actual YouTube violations on YouTube's own platform. They just got a report from the DOJ saying, hey, this is Russian propaganda, misinformation. They're getting paid from Russia, and YouTube banned them on that account. That's not a private company making private company decisions. And by the way, when we say things like there were open portals and people were being suggested, right, because that's kind of how it came off in the Zuckerberg trial, not the trial, but the testimony in front of Congress. It came off as it was kind of like a hey,
you mean the conversation in Congress, but the conversation he had on Joe Rogan's platform sounded very different.
Well, they sounded similar.
But he didn't lie under oath. Yeah.
They sounded slightly similar because he made it sound like they came to us. Oh, by the way, guys, keep an eye out for this. I have a feeling that behind closed doors, the conversation isn't as gentle as keep an eye out. Oh, this story may be linked to Russia. Just keep an eye out. This isn't the FBI talking. I think scary black suits come in the door and they say, hey, this isn't going to be allowed on your platform. I think it's going to be a little more firm and a little more laid out clearly for the media companies. It's
now
not
that I think
private,
about it, dude,
it's not private companies making private decisions.
isn't it interesting that last week was literally the week that Zuckerberg came out with his press release to try to crash coverage about how they literally were told by Biden and Harris to censor people. And then a week later, we see that somebody on the right is getting paid by Russia and they silence and censor them on the internet.
All coincidental, I'm sure, Ryan. It's all Veep. It's all Veep. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to play the clip.
Ben Shapiro's probably the one ratting on everybody.
Just a funny side note about this Russia thing before we get into
the Jews win, we get them back. We will call the SS now.
A funny side note before we get into the Russia, the Mugclub Undercover clip. Ben Shapiro was interviewing Tim Pool on this particular subject because Tim Pool's somehow tied into this, by the way. Not directly, but I guess him and Lauren Chen or Tenet Media somehow had.
You mean Red Pill Tim Pool? Red Pool?
Sure. Somehow they were tied together. So Ben Shapiro, instead of going to the source, went to Tim Pool, and he interviewed him. But it was funny side clip. David. If you go online, you could find it. Whatever. He was interviewing Tim Pool in the middle of the ad, talking about Russia interference. Ben Shapiro cut to an ad for some Israeli company. So it's a little funny. It's a little funny. I know they're not the same thing, but it's a little funny.
Andrew Schultz's joke about Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire being the Israeli news company is so fucking funny. That is like some serious comedy, dude.
People are going to say too. People are going to say too that it's different because Russia are enemies and Israel is allies, right? So it's different. But at the end of the day, it's kind of the same thing. You got to think about it. It really is foreign entities interfering in our business, right? If it's the same over here, it's the same over here. Just because over here you think they're the good guys, that's fine. You can think they're the good guys. I'm not saying they're not even, but it's the same thing. So let's not confuse the two things. At the end of the day, the same thing is happening with multiple nations, not just Russia. But there was a story that came out? There was a Chinese spy in like the New York. I think it's the New York State level, right? Didn't you share that with me?
The governor of New York State had a Chinese spy working in her office.
Oh, her office. This was recently that it was Hochul.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I'm sure it doesn't influence any of their policy, though, Ryan. Don't worry.
Well, not only does it influence any policy, but I'm sure when they get Kathy Hochul out of there for fucking everything up, they're just going to put a new AOC-style candidate in there, David. We have a new governor. A special election.
Isn't it interesting that happened? Listen,
dude, I wonder.
Before it happened federally.
I seriously wonder.
Was that a trial run?
Yeah, I just seriously wonder if they bank on people being group voters that, like, if you vote one bumble on the line, you'll vote the whole line, kind of. Like, most people don't scatter vote. And, like, because I wonder, dude, if they'll just do that and, like, because there's a lot of people pulling Trump, right? Like, whether they want to admit it or not. So maybe they're like, well, if we change Kathy Hochul and they vote Democrat for that, because they don't like the Republican governor, maybe they'll just go all the way to president. I'm kind of thinking out loud here, but it's just interesting to, like, why the shape up in all of these candidacies. I've never in my life, David, I know you and I are roughly the same age and we've been in the politics game about the same now, but you didn't hear shit about Cuomo molesting people until the COVID scandals. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember when
the COVID thing was so much worse, honestly?
Who was it? Spitzer, right? He was with the girl that was dressed. She was like Miss America and a prostitute. They'd meet at like a truck stop, and he'd fuck her in like a astronaut outfit or something, and some ridiculous amount of money. It's some ridiculous amount of money, But like you didn't hear about that until like it, the whole useful idiot thing, right? So these conundrums repeat. So it just makes me wonder, like, we're literally like. The worst thing you can do as a Democrat is just fuck up in any way. Like, literally, because everybody in the country, unless they're really going to steal the election again, David, which in America we have free elections. Clearly,
No, of course, the freest and most secure and most. Oh wait, no, they don't care about that on YouTube anymore.
But yeah, unless they really think they'll steal the election, dude, everybody is watching that party. I'm not catching Republicans with Chinese spies at the government level. Now, granted, they did happen. Matt Gaetz, I think, was one guy. But it's just very interesting. It's just very interesting.
Yeah, was that it, or was it some like grooming scandal or something? Which, by the way, what a shock, went away.
Yeah, that's weird.
Oh, speaking of grooming, we're not going to get into this really, but the Dr. Disrespect. Have you seen have you seen what's gone on with Dr. Disrespect? He put out a video again recently, now denying everything and saying that it was all a setup. It's kind of interesting. We'll probably follow it more in the future, but let's get into this Mugclub Undercover video, because I think it's huge for all the people. Again, if you go online, we talked about this with free speech. It's a private company. It's a private company. Those are called narratives, right? You know this. The narrative surrounding
linguistic programming.
Well, that's if you really know stuff, Ryan. But for everyone else, for all us average peons, it's called a narrative. And everyone says that about private companies, right? Private company, free speech, private company. With Trump, what do you constantly hear? Convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon. He's a rapist, convicted felon, rapist, Donald Trump. This Mugclub Undercover video by Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder's done a lot of great work for a really long time. This might be the greatest piece of anything he's ever put out, because it is so huge, complete verification, vindication, all of that about everything that we've said, which is, hold on, they extended the statute of limitations. They literally created it and made it a felony. And then they convicted it on him through a DA who was funded by George Soros and a judge who was a open Biden supporter, with a jury of his peers, Ryan. This Mugclub Undercover clip is incredible. That's why I didn't clip. It's about 13 minutes long. We're going to watch, pause. We'll do whatever we got to do. I normally clip these kind of things, but it's almost too much and too good just to clip. With that said, I'm just going to pull it up and we're just going to end up watching the whole thing, because it's where's my mouse? It's over here. Back to two monitors. I'm losing my mouse. It's just that good where it's worth watching. Ryan, you can see this, right?
Yes.
Perfect. I can do whatever, pause whenever. Just let me know when you want me to pause. But this is, I don't want to oversell it, but holy shit, what they got on camera is incredible.
He was stacking charges and rearranging things just to make the case nonsense. So perversion of justice. To make him a convict, a convicted felon. It affects his scapulacy if he's a convicted felon. It's a travesty of justice, a mockery of justice.
Let me be clear about something on the outset.
Can you
the
pause
person
Yeah.
you'll be watching today is.
I know this is dumb. I say this all the time, but we're not just fighting for America. We're literally fighting for humanity. Like, they have artificial, intelligent robots. Just remember that. It's not just a nation. Like, America's got to save the day. It's just the way it is.
Not the bad guy here. Unwitting whistleblower? Yeah. Nicholas Biasi is the chief of public affairs for the Department of Justice's Southern District of New York.
Doesn't sound like a peasant.
Something you may be familiar with, and the most prominent federal trial court in America.
Super V.
The felonies did nothing to stop Trump from running.
No, in fact, they made him more relevant.
Did that backfire?
Sure did. And the whole thing is disgusting. They're just out to get him. And that's why I like the surging of the politics. It's a perversion of justice. He was stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. No, to be honest with you, I think the case is nonsense.
Okay. what we talked about when this was happening forever ago. We even talked about it with Dr. Mike Dermott, the Libertarian Party vice presidential nominee, which he was also very on board with. He's not a Trump guy, but he was very on board with the fact that this is this whole thing is bullshit. It doesn't look good. And he said it makes us, if I remember the quote correctly, it makes us look like dopes. And he's 100% right.
And that guy was a police officer for 20 years.
Yeah, he said this was a perversion of justice. The same thing this guy just said, which, by the way, this guy works in the Office of Public Affairs with the Department of Justice. He's saying the same thing that Dr. Mike Dermott came on our program and said. He said it's a perversion of justice. Mike Dermott said it makes us look like dopes to the world, and he says, I think that matters. So I just think it's interesting. We were covering this stuff and saying the same things this guy is saying, and this guy is saying it undercover in the darkness in the bar with the probably attractive woman.
State levels are wild west. They're like idiots. They don't care. They're all political. So yeah, this guy's probably going to try to lock him up, and it's going to be ugly.
You're going to fucking burn. Pause it. Yeah. This is the thing too, Dave, right? A lot of people like Ben Shapiro, like, oh, it's just Veep, guys. Nobody saw. Dude, these people are sinking with the ship because you know why, Veep. Dave? You know why, Dave? Because all of their paychecks are going to all of their mortgages and their kids' college fund and their 401ks. There's never. I thought of this today. I was just driving by in a car and I drove by a whole bunch of new builds, and I told you guys about how those super sweet BlackRock homes, David, that are $300,000 and it's half a house and you split it with the other person.
That's right. Yeah.
It was kind of that type of neighborhood. And I was just like, you guys are retards, you know? And now granted, I barely live in an apartment, you know, I could barely get by in an apartment. These people are living in nice houses. So I'm not knocking that. But what I mean is like, the problem is it's the golden handcuffs. You know, it's like, when you get a house, it's called a rat race, right? And you get yourself in a maze. You put yourself in the box. You got to pay out $300,000 in 30 years. Figure it out. And I know it sounds irrelevant, but people, especially at this high level, this guy, the amount of money and influence and power and things that are tied into it. And after a while, by the time you get so used to being around people that are corrupt, it's just like hanging out with drug addicts. Everybody just does drugs that you know. That's just the way everybody that this guy knows just does this, acts like this, talks like this. So the point is like, these people have an invested inherent interest to keep the lie going because they know if they don't win, there will be political persecutions done at the highest levels of government because Trump does have the information. I believe that. I believe that we have now seen enough information, especially with polling data, David, especially with Biden dropping out of the race, David. The American people don't believe the official narrative of the powers that be. With that being said, Trump getting elected in 2016 is different than Trump being elected in 2020, which is much different than Trump being elected in 2024. Because the Trump elected in 2024, it is revenge year, and Trump isn't going to go in there and clean house and burn shit down. But there will be some kind of investigations.
There's going to have to be. And, you know, this guy says, you know, it's going to get ugly if he gets locked up. You know, if you guys thought January 6th was bad, if Trump gets locked up, I'm telling you, this isn't a call to vielse, YouTube.
What happens if he would have died David, that day? What would have happened if he would have died that day? Dude, people aren't going to fucking work. We're not going to let you lock the guy up. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And you're admitting it. And I know this word like very, very, very rarely in this video already. But dude, you guys have already known and admitted it in your internal polling, like you've referenced many times in this program, David. Your internal polling is telling you that you are fucked. And you have to staple whatever you can to the floorboard of that Ford and get it through the next 5 turns, man, to win the race.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you will sink with the ship. Hook or crook, you will win this. You will lie to your countrymen. You will deceive your mom. You will slap your grandparents. You don't care. These people are going for broke because they know if they don't win, they will be gone after. There will be judgments. There will be like this. Remember when they were jailing all Trump's friends for tax evasion? That's what I'm talking about, but it's not going to be fucking tax evasion. It'll be SWAT teaming people in the middle of the night for fucking working with YouTube to interfere in a foreign. Donald Trump said if he gets elected, he's going to head Elon Musk as the head auditor of the government, and Elon's going to go through and audit everything in the government.
That would be fucking incredible.
Who is they?
Who I've known for 15 years. He used to work in my office. Before he decided to prosecute Trump, did you know who he was? You do now. I'm not sure what he wants to be, but I know he's not happy just being the DA of New York County. So now he's very ambitious. Every real estate person in New York does what he did. Nobody's ever been charged with this. Until him.
Mr. Biasi is just saying the quiet part out loud. The part that unfortunately matters. Lawfare? Yes. Why? Because Biasi openly says so. The ones from Alvin Bragg are a particular perversion of justice. How do you know? Because Biasi says so, and he's known him for 15 years. Election interference, at this point, is there any doubt?
Are those actual felonies? Because I was pretty sure that.
He was stacking charges and rearranging things.
For the record, pause it, David. It's not election interference, Stephen Crowder. It's called treason. I don't like. And what's the what do you get if you're a treasonist, David? What's the penalty?
I think you get hung, if I remember correctly, or hanged. Is it hanged?
Yeah, I wonder why everybody's just falling right in line with just put on a mask and shut the fuck up. Well, that or the gallows. If you people think that they are not syncing with the shit that they have been lying to you on our entire fucking lives, I have a rocket ship to sell you. I'm being serious. This is like been the problem with the whole just calling people dumb conspiracy theorists. They have chemicals in Doritos that turn mice see-through.
That's real. We'll talk about that later.
Been poisoning you for 15 years. Wonder why you're so fucking dumb that they can literally steal an election underneath you. And you're just like, no, this is fine. Put on a mask.
Why? I think the case is nonsense. Every real estate person in New York does what he did. Nobody's ever been charged with this. Until him. And that's why like the surgery.
Felonies, nothing.
No, in fact, they made him more relevant.
Did that backfire?
Sure did.
And that was that Alvin Bragg's choice to do that? Or why?
Because Alvin's very ambitious.
What do you mean?
He wants to be, something. I don't know what. Mayor. I'm not sure what he wants to be, but I know he's not happy just being the DA of New York County. So this is like before he decided to
wants more power.
Trump, did you know who he was?
David, pause it.
You do now.
This reminds me in like 2013 when locally the New York State Safe Act movement went underway and all the coalitions and the largest rallies ever in the history of the state to try to combat and educate people on shooter information. And Mark Rassani, who was running in the district of Lancaster that I lived, he was Republican and he voted for it even though he said he was pro-gun. We voted him out, like the due process that allows David the good old just vote your rights back, right, David? Just vote to change. Well,
just peacefully ask for your rights.
Yeah. And you know what happened to him, David? He actually, instead of being a lawmaker, he went on to be a judge. So he got a raise, a better pension, a better position for following the code in the handbook.
That's pretty convenient.
I've literally witnessed this at a grassroots level about this level of corruption. And let's be honest, David, this is in New York State. the whole as far as this Department of Justice may be in Washington D.C., but as far as like the whole statute of New York State operation.
You know what's interesting too, and I'll say this real quick before we get back to playing more. This Nick Biasi, I believe it is saying, well, Alvin's ambitious and he might want to be a mayor, maybe a governor. He wants to do something. Who knows? I think it's probably more than that. I don't suspect, without knowing for sure, this is speculation. I don't suspect he did this because he wants to be a governor. I don't think it hurts him in New York specifically. But I think somebody higher than him told him that this was going to happen. We've talked about the fact that this DA is funded by George Soros. I suspect somebody told him this is how it's going to go down.
What was the point of even doing it then?
To make him a convict.
To make him what?
A convicted felon.
What if he can still run for presidency and
Yeah, but it affects his candidacy if he's a convicted felon.
I was trying to count the laws because I was like, I wonder like how many are against him. I think it's for lawfare.
Yes.
That's what I've gathered from that.
That is what they call it.
So how does this even happen? How can it happen? How can the local and state level courts try President Trump with more ease and less red tape than the federal courts? That doesn't seem right to the uninitiated, but you are the uninitiated. Good thing Biasi isn't.
I mean, at the federal level where I work, there is a 90-day rule where you can't make any decisions on cases that are going to affect an election.
I pre-paused it for you, Ryan. I know there's no way you're going to let that go.
They said it, David, just at the federal election, right? Not at the state election, clearly.
Where
That's
I
just
work,
the
it's the federal
federal.
government.
Yeah, so they either get you at the state or they just attack you outside that 90-day window, David. And then by then they can either just cook up enough shit to put you in prison so that you can't even run for the election, or you have your state people.
Well, you don't even make
This
the federal government doesn't even need to get involved because maybe it would be a little too obvious, Ryan. Just let the state go after him for some charges that they made up.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, he literally just told you that they interfere in elections. Because let's be honest, 90 days ain't shit in an election.
No. Oh my God. Well, that's what's it always called, Ryan? Is the October surprise?
November surprise, right?
November. Well, it can't be November. That's when the election is. It's before
October surprise. September
Come on.
surprise.
September surprise. It's a surprise. I don't even remember when it is because it's a surprise, Ryan. Let's get back to this fucking dude. It's always fascinating when I watch these videos that literally some amount of alcohol and a moderately attractive woman. I don't know what she looks like, but I'm going to guess some amount of alcohol and a moderately attractive woman will get some of these people to say anything. It's fucking remarkable.
That rule does not apply at the state level.
Oh.
The state level is like Wild West.
Oh, it's all deep.
They're like idiots.
Yeah,
they
just
don't
idiots.
Care. They're all political. So yeah, this guy's probably going to try to lock him up, and it's going to be ugly.
Can you pause it?
There's
How's the state's political, but the federal government's not just political?
No, it's not political, Ryan.
This is super not Veep, David.
Yeah,
All
not deep.
co-
It's
Super. Oh, you mean the people that have the Trump assassination dude like on camera, ready to kill the guy for months before he planned the thing, and
it's
those people that don't know what they're doing, David. Those
the famous. It's the famous. You know, this was before the Veep comment by Ben Shapiro, but it's the famous. Well, they're just idiots. I'm telling you, your life will change. Your outlook on life will change. Your outlook into politics will change completely when you stop thinking everybody is dumb and start thinking that they're doing this to you maliciously.
David, Nancy
important. It's an
Pelosi
important
is only
distinction.
worth $50 million. She's clearly just incompetent in running a state level position.
Just a public servant, and maybe she might be a little dumb. That's all.
Well,
She's just here to serve and a little dumb.
She's here to serve and have a perfect track record on trading stocks right before they explode in wealth. Don't worry about it.
Some of that might be true at like your most local election, like the most local, your local
like
town
a
or
dog
whatever.
catcher.
Sure, there
Like
might be some like, oh, that guy's kind of a schmuck. Maybe. By the way, schmuck, we're paid by Israel also, not just Russia.
Dave, we got to hear the Water Authority story.
There might be some of that at the very locals, but when you start getting up into, state politicians and federal employees, like that stuff starts to go out the window. These are the top
Dave,
of the top. These
you're
people
wrong.
are.
You're fucking wrong. No, you're wrong. Patrick Pat David, I think, I forget who he said they had it on there, and he proved that George Soros actually spends at the local and state levels because he gets more return on his investment. Because instead of allowing it to go up to the court system, he can squash it at the local level. They care about the local level. They have always cared about the local level. The individual is the most important, and they will target that. That's why it's all political. He literally, for the record, the reason they're all idiots at the state level and they're all politicized is because they're just good little gears in the cog to keep us down. That's prevalent, but it's from a top-down approach. That's why they're political. If it was the way it was supposed to be, it would be anti-political because it would be strengthened from the bottom. They're like, this guy is literally showing you like how absolute power corrupts absolutely. Except the difference is the power that's corrupting all of us is tied to your bank loans, your kids' college fund, your health care, your pensions, like literally everything that you'll work 70 years of your life and just bank on it being there because one guy's in position.
Yeah.
In reality, they could just print out the money to nothing.
To clarify just a little bit, small town in Pennsylvania, probably not funded by George Soros. Small town in relatively small town in New York, probably not funded by George Soros. You get to like New York City DAs, fucking absolutely. In fact, if I remember correctly, George Soros funds like some monstrous percentage of DAs across the country. So yeah, I guess there's local, state, federal. That's where I'm getting at. I think really small towns probably is where you're going to see more of that guy's kind of an idiot. And then once you get to the either bigger towns and cities, state and local, federal, that's when you get into the absolute corruption. I don't remember where this was at, but we'll keep going.
Who is they? How did they get away with that?
It's a different system. Like the state level and the federal level are like night and day. It's hard to explain, but like there are so many more rules in the federal level, and they're like the threshold for a crime is so much higher. Like I said, like the state level is like the Wild West of law. It's like very, for lack of a better term, unregulated. Less checks and balances.
And I know what you're thinking. I thought it too. Well, you're talking about one case or two or 19. Hey, if it's local, you break the rules, you pay the piper, or even if you don't, if you're President Trump, pay the piper. But there are other cases in the country. There are a lot of them where there's smoke, there's fire, right? What about the Georgia electoral interference case, right? That Donald Trump is currently having to face under Fani Willis, right? The Fulton County District Attorney who was caught having an affair with the special prosecutor Nathan Wade.
So is that the strategy against Trump? Just hit him with all the legal battles all across, like the Fani Willis, Georgia stuff? What do you think about that case?
It's a travesty of justice. To put it mildly, it's a mockery of justice.
They don't care about justice.
A joke. like her and her boyfriend she was seeing. The whole thing is disgusting. They're just out to get him.
I guess at this point, the only argument left is why should you trust anything Biasi has to say? Let me make the case. Biasi is an expert. He has firsthand knowledge and experience. And despite how the media is going to try and spin this, he is kind of an authoritative voice as the chief of public affairs for the Department of Justice's Southern District of New York. This man knows the players, he knows the game, and he knows that it is rigged.
Who's that?
Yeah, how are they gonna?
Alvin Bragg, yeah. Who
Are they gonna bury this? Like, how are they gonna stop this from getting out? They're gonna say it's just ambush journalism that's not real.
Usually what they do is they just attack the messenger. So they're just going to say this guy is he's just some schmo. He doesn't actually know what he's talking about. He's not directly related to the case. He works for the DOJ. So he doesn't know the inner workings of, New York, even though he said, I worked with Alvin Bragg for 15 years when he worked under me in the New York office specifically. So he does. But they're going to say, well,
it's the wild, wild west anyway.
Yeah,
so, like, of course,
yeah.
nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, he doesn't know this case
it's ran
specifically, though.
Yeah, of course, David. How can you when it's ran like the wild, wild west?
By the way, does this guy sound? It's interesting. He doesn't particularly sound like a Trump supporter necessarily, right? But he's very acknowledging of the fact that this is what he said clearly. It's a travesty of justice. I mean, it's incredible.
I've known him for 15 years. He used to work in my office. So here's us. Here's Alvin. He's county level, and he decided to do the case.
Yeah.
And Michael
Just decided.
was their star witness who we prosecuted.
Okay.
You know who he is?
Mm-hmm.
That guy's psycho. He calls me.
What
And he
does
records
he
it.
want with you?
He's like, he's got this thick New York accent. He's like, is this Nicholas Biaggi, the chief of public affairs? And I'm like, yeah, this is me. I'm like, this is Michael Cohen. Why won't you guys, vacate my conviction? I'm like, I can't really, I'm not authorized to speak to victims or defendants, which I thought was a pretty good answer, not knowing who was calling. And he was like, well, who can you speak to? And I was like, the media. And he goes, I have one of the biggest podcasts in New York. But I kind of didn't believe him.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you're still a defendant, and that precludes me from talking. Of course. I've known Alvin for 15 years.
Like, how well do you know him?
I used to work with him for 10 years.
You guys had dinner together and hung out?
No, we weren't best friends.
Okay.
But I mean, like, if I see him, we're like, we know each other really well, but like, do I respect what he's doing? No. Is he a nice guy?
What about like the other people you work with? Do they know it's all a political perversion?
Yeah. Of course. Well, Trump stuff?
Yeah.
Well, we deferred on all this stuff.
What do you mean?
We investigated and, decided that, for one thing, there is precedent that you can't indict a sitting president.
You cannot.
You cannot.
Okay.
I think that's important. The Supreme Court just touched on this recently, but he goes, there's precedent you can't indict a sitting president. We just went through this whole debate recently about what type of exclusions and what type of protections the president of the United States gets, but this clearly violates that. And this is an acknowledgement from somebody in the federal government that, yeah, those exist. I thought that was interesting because there was a big debate over those.
Yeah, and you can't arrest the president, right? That's the consensus.
In Office of Legal Affairs rule that you cannot indict a sitting president.
That's what I thought.
It's just too disruptive to the country. So we didn't, but the DA did.
Again, it's important to remember that Biasi is not the bad guy here. I know you're probably mad. Lawfare is a thing. And it's not only happened to Donald Trump, it's happened to many of you watching or listening right now. Some of you don't even know it yet. You don't live in a free country simply because you have laws. You only live in a free country if the laws are applied equally. Otherwise, the law is not a tool to protect a free people. It's used as a weapon to bludgeon the people who perhaps think wrongly. What is the media going to say here? And it's a good thing that this is part of an ongoing series every single week.
That was your question.
Between now and election night.
I think that's it on that. But that was your question. What's how are they going to try to sweep this?
Yeah. I don't know how you distract. Like, what do you need, a school shooting in Georgia to distract you from Steven Crowder dropping? I was playing a game earlier this week, and basically Cards Against Humanity, and they were like, name a web TV show that you never knew you needed until you seen it. And I said, school shootings, back rubs, and Chinese food. So Steven Crowder, that's how they're going to distract, because they got to bury that. There's no way. Either that or the algorithm, and nobody sees it. But we have X, right, David? So this is why.
That's the problem for the left, is now that X is a free speech platform, and the algorithm actually works, as we can see the difference. Also with Rumble, we can see the difference between Rumble and YouTube. We always found it interesting, but when we migrated over to Rumble, being a 10th the size of YouTube, we thought, well, we're definitely not going to get any traction here, and we've gotten so much more traction here. Thank you to everyone, of course, but why is that, Ryan? Why is it the same show that happens here and happens on YouTube gets so much more traction here on a platform that is a 10th the size of YouTube? Is it perhaps because we have stories like the DOJ telling YouTube that these are all Russian influencers and YouTube banning their channel? That happens at smaller levels too, shadow banning and things like that. So,
or interference in New Zealand's election, or medical misinformation, or copyright. That was the big one for a while, was copyright strike. Even though everything Dave and I do is legal, and we don't do anything different than anybody else on the internet with the news channel does.
Fascinating. Crazy.
Just Veep, guys. Just Veep. Just buy my Daily Wire subscription model.
It's all Veep. That's such a great difference between Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder. I'll always give Ben Shapiro I'll always give him the pat on the back. He is a very highly intelligent individual, no doubt. But when I'm looking for people to lead, what I'm looking for is someone with some fucking balls. And Ben Shapiro doesn't fucking have them. And that's why I don't have a lot of respect for Ben Shapiro. And what a stark contrast between Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder. Ben Shapiro running around telling everybody telling everyone it's Veep. And here's Steven Crowder saying, you know what? I don't think it is Veep. Let's do undercover videos. Let's send some attractive women and some drunk men together and see what happens. James O'Keefe
serious question,
style.
David. Serious question. If he was on the Daily Wire and signed that contract when he would be demonetized, wouldn't this video be demonetized technically on YouTube, because it would be considered what you're saying? So therefore, Steven Crowder couldn't even talk about how the video that he wanted to release that was super damning. Do you see the preventative narrow? The only reason Crowder can even show us this video about how corrupt our government actually is because he didn't sign Ben Shapiro's little sheet of paper.
Between that and Rumble and Elon taking over X, those are the three biggest things that led to this. I mean, without Rumble, yes, his videos are still up on YouTube, but at some point, you got to make a paycheck. You know what I mean? So it's fucking incredible. And by the way, I won't be surprised to see in the future if they try to pin Steven Crowder in some of this Russia bullshit. Guaranteed it's going to come out. It might not be Russia directly, but I guarantee.
And they'll get his wife. They'll get his wife to say he's unstable. And
they're going to target him.
Oh, they are. I think the wife left because she knew. What do you think that if those are the conversations he has on air with his crew, what do you think he's telling his wife? I think his wife doesn't fucking, I know they're divorced, but why do you think Alex couldn't keep marriages?
It probably is a little scary, if I'm honest.
How the fuck's it not scary?
It's probably scary. If
you're telling me the guy that broke in and snuck a bunch of people, caught billionaires having fake rituals in the middle of a woods at 3:30 in the morning on like a Tuesday, that you're married to that guy. And he's telling you that, yeah, they're just going to make us global slaves. So I'm going to put solar panels on the house to protect us. You know, yeah, they probably all love all the wealth and notoriety, but like when it really got to like them fucking with the car,
paint the walls in gold flake.
I'm serious, they do that shit. I fucking swear to fucking God, dude. You think George Bush is sitting in his house? You know, George Bush has a fucking fallout shelter on his Texas
Those walls
ranch.
are so beautiful, George. Oh yeah, they're just you know.
Yeah, my mom picked out the color. You know, my mom was an art teacher.